Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon of the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of jbiztechvalley.com and Statewide News. We have a very, very special guest with us, Jeffrey Kuhn of the Bethlehem Town Council. You say that in Yiddish, you say a Jewish landsman, a person that we have that live near each other. Mm-hmm. But welcome, Jeff, to the Jewish View. If I can call you Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff's fine. Thank you very much,
Welcome
Rabbi.
to the Jewish View.
Thank you, Mark.
The
Happy
first
to be here.
thing, I just start from square one, and maybe I'm an ignoramus like I think most people are also. How many people on the town council? What's their function?
Sure.
I just think that most people, listen, including myself, are not that aware. I try to be a good citizen and be aware of things, but
Right.
I think there's just a lot of, ignorance on people's part of exactly what their own government is supposed to be doing.
Sure. Well, people are busy and they're leading their lives, and understandably, sometimes local government isn't at the top of everybody's priority list. But the town board is comprised of 5 individuals, 4 councilmen, and the supervisor, and everyone has an equal vote. The supervisor is he's the chairman of the town board, so he runs the meetings. But the town board is comprised of myself, Bill Reinhardt, who's another councilman, then Kyle Koteri, and Joanne Dawson. Those are the 4 councilmen, and then the supervisor is John Clarkson.
It's just like an assemblyman. You get your own district. Is there a district for Bethlehem, or it's everybody votes for all of them?
The Bethlehem is at large. So we're not divided into districts for the town board. All the town board represents, every member of the town board represents the entire town.
Right,
So any of the town councilmen are prepared to run for supervisor.
Yeah, I mean
They
that's
want
that's one way of looking at it. Also, there have been discussions over the past few years about devising some kind of ward system in the town. I have not been in favor of that. I like the fact that I represent everyone in the town, and not just sort of the area of the town where I live. We have a beautiful big town with a lot of diversity, both in terms of people and the areas of the town. We have some very classic suburban places. We also have some industrial parts of the town, and we have some very rural parts of the town too.
Now the population is what, about 35,000?
Yeah, approximately 35,000 people.
So
in
it's not
Bethlehem.
like Colony has 7 town councilmen.
Yeah.
And including the supervisor, 6 and the supervisor, and they also have 95,000 or 98,000 residents. So
Right.
you can understand why they need extra
Sure.
councilmen in Colony.
Absolutely.
But this is a good size of it's the same size as Guilderland.
Mm-hmm.
Bethlehem's the same size as Guilderland, and Guilderland has the same number of town councilmen also.
Yes, I believe
Yeah,
that's
yes.
right. I know Colony has more. I think
Right.
Guilderland also has 5. In terms of our function, quite a bit. I mean, we're essentially the town's legislature. So any local laws that need to be enacted, that's what the town board does. Changes in the zoning laws, etc. We also every year are in charge of passing the town's budget, which is a big part of what we do in the fall. And we also, any expenditures over a certain threshold limit need to be approved by the town board. Within the past 2 years since I came on the board, we've enacted a new ethics code for the town.
What was wrong with the old one?
Well, it was, there's a model code that the comptroller, the state comptroller's office, prepared, and we basically enacted that with some specific revisions to make it sort of fit the best way possible for Bethlehem.
But what was wrong with the old one?
We didn't. It wasn't adequate for. It didn't. I mean, there were several, I think, shortcomings, and we wanted to have a more comprehensive ethical code that covered anything that could
But there
come up.
were no ethics issues that arose to make you want to change the ethics laws.
I don't think there was anything in particular, any particular incident of unethical behavior, but I think you don't want to always be reactive to something bad that happens. So we wanted to, as we manage the town, I think we're always striving to reach a point where we become a model of municipal government, and I think we're doing that. But you're never, it's like learning. You never feel like, okay, I know everything, I can stop reading. We're always trying to make the town the best it can possibly be.
But do the ethics laws tie your hands where you feel like you can't do anything without being in violation of the ethics laws? I mean, no one lives their lives in purity.
I don't think so. I think the ethics laws. Most people know when they're running into a gray area, and I don't think it's on a regular basis that you run into those areas. But when you do, it's good to have written down where exactly the lines are. And we have a system. If someone did think that they were entering into a gray area, they had some question, we as part of what we enacted in terms of the ethics code, we created an ethics board, and town employees can go to the ethics board and seek an advisory opinion about a particular course of action, whether or not it would in fact violate the ethics code.
So now, let me just get back to the makeup of the town board.
Sure thing.
You're not all Democrats on the town board. Bill Reinhardt is an independent?
No. Bill's a Democrat.
Oh, okay.
The town board currently is comprised of 4 Democrats and 1 independent.
Who's the independent?
Joanne Dawson.
Okay.
Last year.
Now, is that Independence Party?
She's a member of the. I know
Okay.
it's confusing, but she is a member of the Independence Party, which I think is you're right. That's the more accurate way to say it. A true independent
Would be a blank. Would be not enrolled in any party.
affiliated. Right. Not right. So it's 4 Democrats and Joanne, who's a member of the Independence Party. Last year, when Mark Jordan left the town board to become the town justice, the late Mark Jordan, we had a vacancy, and the 3 Democrats and the member of the Independence Party appointed George Lenhart to fill a 1-year term on the board, and he was a Republican. So I think that kind of demonstrates that there is much more sort of bipartisanship.
Yeah, but there was
town
the
level.
agreement that he wouldn't run for that seat also.
Yeah, that was...
You wanted to find someone who wouldn't run.
Right. We were interested because incumbency is such a powerful factor. I think there was sort of a consensus on the board that we didn't necessarily want to be... we wanted to leave that decision to the voters ultimately. So I think we were looking for someone who was interested in serving for a year, but wouldn't seek re-election. And George, who had been on the town board previously as a Republican, had served, I think, multiple terms.
Yes, he did.
We felt he was somebody who could come in, really hit the ground running, know the issues that we were dealing with.
And he's respectful. He's not a partisan individual to some extent. I mean, he was a committeeman when he was in office. He had to be a committeeman, but otherwise, I think he's pretty neutral on a lot of issues.
Yeah, I started serving...
I know George well. So,
and I started serving... my first year was the year that George was on the board, and he sat right next to me, and he was a great role model for how to do the job in a non-political way.
Yeah, but he didn't turn you Republican, though.
No, he didn't turn me a Republican. That's absolutely true. But I think it's a good example, though, the fact that at least at the town level, I don't think the sort of polarizing political issues which could kind of dominate the national debate really are at play. I mean, everybody is wants to manage the town effectively. Be very very judicious with the way that we spend public's money, and make sure that we continue to provide those core services that the people of the town have come to expect in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. I mean, I think that's everybody's goal.
Yeah, I agree with you. Knowing the makeup and knowing the people in the town board, I think that's pretty fair. But for a long time it was all Republican control. This is just a new phenomenon for the Democrats in the past 8 years or so. It might be because the Democrats from Albany moved into Bethlehem, and Republicans moved elsewhere, or Democrats just outnumbered in sheer numbers the town political makeup, and it all because the overflow from Albany came into Bethlehem.
Yeah, I think there's obviously demographic factors that apply. I think you've also seen within the past 15 years or so, the National Republican Party has drifted I think, quite a bit further to the right than it has been, than it had been, let's say, 20 or 30 years ago, where there was still room in the Republican Party for moderates on social issues. It seems like more and more, just as
Kinda
an
like
observer.
Rockefeller Republican.
Right, Rockefeller, exactly. I think, Rockefeller Republican, who's somebody who was sort of probably conservative on fiscal issues, but more moderate to progressive on social issues.
Right.
That sort of, that description, that person really doesn't have much of a role in the Republican Party more. Rockefeller now would probably be sort of a conservative Democrat. So, I think that's probably, that's as much a factor as anything in the way that the electorate in sort of suburban communities like Bethlehem has evolved.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because the Republican Party of Lincoln in the 1860s would be considered like a Democrat today.
Right. I mean,
And
obviously the political issues back in the 1860s were different when the Republican Party in the 1850s was being founded. But you're right that the Republicans, when they were formed, were the progressive, more obviously they were about changing some of the ingrained social phenomena back then. And even if you take it forward 60 years, Teddy Roosevelt wanted to bring the party in the direction of progressivism around the turn of the century, but within the past 30 years or so, the party has become very much a conservative right-wing entity. Yeah,
I wanted to ask you about I always do this with our guests. I want to bring a personal element into this. So, how old are you? How many kids? Are you?
Sure.
You see, you're married because you have a ring on.
Yeah, I'm married. Beautiful wife, Kristen, at home. I'm married. I'm 36 years old. Live in Delmar. I have 4 children.
2 boys, 2 girls.
No, I've got 3 girls and a boy. Amelia, Logan, Theodore is my son, and then we have a baby who's 9 months old. Her name's Hazel.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
May you have simchas and nachas with all your children.
Yeah, you have to translate. I'm the translator here.
Okay.
Happiness and pleasure, that's a general
Right.
blessing people
Well,
get
thank
to
you
each
very
other
much.
from all your children.
And what do you do? Where do you work in a law firm? You work
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm an attorney. I primarily, the way I describe myself is an environmental attorney. We do things kind of other than that as well, but I work at a law firm called DLA Piper in Albany.
DLA Piper. It's not like Hinman Straub where everyone knows them. I mean, what
Right. Well, DLA Piper is it's actually the largest law firm in the world.
Wow.
But there's only in Albany there are 2 attorneys, so we're not we don't have maybe quite as high profile in the Albany legal market, but we kind of have a niche practice that we operate
It
on.
would be like an environmental, give me a classic case where
Sure.
would come across your desk.
Well, we represent a lot of companies that let's say, for instance, they're developing a project, whether it be sort of a water treatment plant or an electric generating facility. Those are industries where they're very heavily regulated from an environmental perspective. So whether it's we would help those companies get the permits they need and sort of quarterback them through, shepherd them through the entire legal process in terms of getting permits, getting land use approvals from the local government. So if a project was sort of new, that's the kind of things that we do. But then once projects are up and running, we help people maintain compliance with the existing environmental laws. So they're very complicated, and so that's why that's the services we offer. Yeah, you need an attorney.
Do you have a personal issue on it? Let's say, for example, fracking.
He's got a lot of personal
Really?
issues.
No, I mean, with the environment, whatever comes, you're going to help them, or let's say someone would want fracking. Oh, I'm so against fracking, I'm not going to help you, or you have your own issues or that, or it's just whatever comes across, you're going to help them.
Well, I think our goal is to help people comply with the existing laws. I care very much about the environment, and I think most of the time, there isn't. I think a lot of times people look at it and say, well, industry is, they're not in favor of the environment, and I think most of the people who work for these companies, they absolutely want to keep the environment as clean as possible. They're responsible stewards, and we just kind of help them make sure that all the things that they're doing do comply with the laws. In terms of hydraulic fracturing. I mean, it's something that the state has been looking at for quite a while now.
If you had to advise the governor on that, how would you tell him, yay or nay on?
Well, I think we have. There are some places in this country where it's been going on where
Without incident.
Right. Well, there's places where it's been going on without incident. I think there's probably also some places where it could probably be, the regulations could be a little bit more
Stringent.
a little more stringent. But I think that there's a lot of really great, capable professionals at the Department of Environmental Conservation who I think are in the process of looking at this, and ultimately it's an enormous resource that this state has, that the whole country has, in terms of we just need to make sure that if we do develop the shale gas resources, we do it in such a way that is very, very protective of the environment. And I think that's the balance that that the Cuomo administration is trying to achieve right now, is to find a way to develop that resource, but in such a way that is protective of drinking water and our other precious natural resources.
Okay. So I'm Governor Andrew Cuomo calling Councilman Jeffrey Kuhn.
Yep.
Tell me how I should, what I should, if you think that hydrofracking is the answer, and if we should move forward with it in a safe way.
I think that listen, I'll tell you that if your environmental professionals, if your engineers and your scientists all tell you that based on the science, it can be done in a safe way with the best practices, if the best practices that have been developed by the industry and the scientists and the academics and the engineers,
go with it.
Then if you can, if you know it can be done safely, then let's do it. But obviously with significant regulations and to make sure.
But I have this analogy every time it comes up. This issue comes up, is that these anti-frackers, if they were around when the automobile was first introduced into common culture, we would never have. They'd be against the automobile. We'd never have an automobile because it was spontaneous combustion. People were getting killed all the time, and even in today's society, we have more people killed on the roads than anywhere else, pretty much. So, they would be against cars. The automobile. I mean, you gotta. Everything has risk.
Right. I think.
And you're gonna have faux pas of everything. I mean, here you have automobiles where it's a life-threatening situation, and they're talking about. The anti-frackers are talking about, well, it could impact the groundwater. Well, it hasn't yet. And where they talk about methane and the coming out of the water, the water tap, and you can light it up and they see the flame. Well, methane is natural recurring, and it comes out of the water tap anyway. Right. So they're making a case where it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think that one image that you talk about is a powerful one, and I think a lot of people see that and say, oh gosh, that's terrible. We can't allow that to happen, and they don't realize that that's a phenomenon that in certain parts of the country is just naturally occurring because there's so much natural gas in the earth. Methane tends to sometimes leak up into the water system, regardless. Before anybody was talking about hydraulic fracturing or shale gas, the people who are opposed to it are, I think their motives are, they want what's best for their community. Reasonable minds can obviously differ on this. My position is, I think there's people kind of all the way to both sides of the spectrum on this. I think my position is sort of more a pragmatic. It's a tremendous resource. It could have a tremendous value to us. It could be a bridge. That much increasing the supply of natural gas to that extent could really be a bridge fuel that will get us to the next stage of our economy, which is more based on renewable fuels. If we can take steps to do it in a responsible manner, then I think it's something that we should do.
Now, given your environmental history and your interest, I bet you'd want to run on the Green Party, maybe?
I'll talk to...
If there was a Green Party?
Yeah, if there still was. Absolutely.
That would be fitting for you.
Yeah, I'd have to figure out precisely where they stood on all the issues, make sure I agreed with them. But
and you're Irish, right?
I am, yeah.
Which is green, goes into that, so it's all good.
About half Irish, so it's it's all making sense now.
And big bucks, so that's green, and
There you
that's
go.
good.
There's lots of good
green
things.
is
Lots
good.
of green,
Right.
Anyhow, where did you go to college? And
Sure. I went to the American University in Washington,
yeah.
for undergrad, and then I went to Boston College for law school.
And what'd you major in undergrad?
I was poli-sci major undergrad.
Okay. And your master's?
Well, I don't have my master's degree. I have my JD, which is
Okay.
my law degree. So
All right.
you don't really.
Do you have a specialty? And then did you study environmental issues when you were in college?
It wasn't. In law school, you don't have a major per
Right,
se. You
right.
can certainly after your first year.
Concentrate in
Yeah,
something.
after your first year in law school. Well, your first year, everybody takes the same courses.
Yeah.
You don't have any choice. But then the second and third year, you kind of concentrate in what you want. I took some courses, some property law and some environmental law courses in law school. It wasn't, sort of my main focus.
Okay.
But, so much of being an attorney, you kind of learn from doing, and you kind of figure out as your career progresses what interests you. And it's something, environmental law is kind of something that I came to after I'd been out of law school for a few years, and now I've been doing it for quite a while, and it's something that I enjoy quite a bit. You have the legal aspect of it, but you also you get to learn about a lot of really interesting areas of science and technology that are really fascinating, and so I think that's what keeps the job interesting.
Well, what got you interested in Bethlehem politics? I mean, you're political science, but
Sure.
to run into, a lot of people, with the Jewish people, everybody has an opinion, but not everybody,
Sure.
of course, takes the legal stand of running
Right.
for office.
Well, it's a good question, Rabbi. When we moved to Bethlehem, about beginning of 2007, and it was about that same time we started a family. And I think as you kind of set down roots and you start to have children, you realize that you are very invested in the community, and you care about it and the people in it, and you want to do what you can to make sure that it stays the special place that it is. I think Bethlehem is a very unique
Where'd
community.
you move from?
We moved from Boston. My wife and I were living in Boston before we moved here.
So you moved right out of law school?
No, I went to law school in Boston. Then I was in Rochester, where I'm from, for about 2.5
You're
years.
from Rochester.
Then I went back to Boston for a couple of years, and then we moved here.
Okay.
My wife's family's from Western Massachusetts, so
Uh-huh.
we kind of, when we were starting a family, we're interested in kind of being somewhat closer to them. But so once we figured out that this is where we were going to stay and this is where we were going to raise our children, you want to make sure that the town we preserved all the things that we liked about it so much, and that caused us to move here in the first place. So I've always been interested in politics, and when the opportunity presented itself to...
How did it present itself? Someone approached you? You approached someone? You showed up at more than one town hall meeting or something?
I started getting involved in the Bethlehem Democratic Committee several years ago, and after kind of being involved and working on a few campaigns, there was I knew that there was there was going to be an opening on the town board, and some people talked to me about it and said, "Would you be interested?" And after giving it a lot of thought and talking it over with my wife, I decided it was something that I would be interested in.
Further aspirations?
Who knows? I mean,
Lieutenant governor position might be up.
Yeah, the former mayor of Rochester. Lieutenant Governor Duffy's a great lieutenant governor. But my concentration at this point is really on doing the best job I can as a member of the town board, raising my family, doing the best job I can in my day job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you just concentrate on doing what's in front of you and doing it the best way you can, then we'll see what happens years down the road.
What's the salary for councilman?
Oh, I think it's approximately $14,000. It's a part-time position.
Absolutely part-time.
I mean, the supervisor is a full-time position,
Right.
But
the town board.
Yeah. I mean, it's we have our meetings every 2 weeks, but we also there's a lot of things in between in terms of other meetings. And
Do
stuff.
you have? Well, I was going to ask you about your future in terms of Oh, how much is the budget, the town budget? What's the
Town budget's approximately $40 million.
40 million?
Yeah, I think
And-
that's about right.
And has that gone down? Has that decreased the total? Or?
Since I've been on I came on the board in January of
Of us.
2012. I was elected in November of 2011 and started serving in January 2012. The first budget I did, we cut spending by approximately 2%. Because of the loss of a huge pilot agreement
Right.
with Selkirk Cogen, we actually had to. We cut spending and to cut what was a structural budget gap, we had to cut spending and raise taxes a bit. But the tax increase this year in this budget, which is the
Right.
second one I'm working on, is less than 2%. I think it's approximately 1.5%. And then because we've made some I think responsible fiscal decisions
Right.
the past 2 years, from here on out we look like we're in good shape to be below the state tax cap, maybe significantly below that, going into the future. In this year's budget, in fact, several areas of the town will receive a tax cut. Glenmont and Selkirk they'll be paying less taxes than they paid last year. So yeah, that's basically
Okay.
how the budget's been going.
Okay. What else would you like to add that we didn't discuss in our final minutes?
Oh well, I think I don't have anything particular in mind.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a message that you wanted to get out to the people or something.
no.
I always leave it open.
Yeah. Well, I would just say that we have our town board meetings twice a month, and
On what day?
they are on Wednesday. It's the second and the fourth Wednesday of every month. We love to have the public there, public participation. There's an opportunity at every meeting for people to come out and speak on whatever they want, both the issues that are on the agenda and issues that aren't on the agenda. And I think our town board, our town government functions the most effectively when we have a very wide group of people participating, as participatory as possible. So I would just invite people to come on out, hear what we talk about, take part in the meetings, express your opinion, and that would be fantastic.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey Kuhn of the Bethlehem Town Council, and Mark Ronich, and thank you very much for taking time to view us.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.